What is going on, everyone? Cryptids and Creepypastas podcast here. And we've talked about the Skinwalkers, we've talked about Wendigo, we've talked about the Siren Head, and today we'll be talking about the Chupacabra. So, let's jump right in.
Well, I mean, the Chupacabra, it's probably well known, mostly in the southern states, like all the other ones that we've talked about. It was actually first reported in March of 1995. So far, I don't know, but we've only come up with two names, the Chupacabra and El Chupacabra. But, you know,
those are the names that people have given it, the Chupacabra and El Chupacabra.
It's mainly in the Caribbean. It's Central, South America, North America,
mainly Puerto Rico, though. That's basically where it kind of originated from.
When I think of Chupacabra, I usually think of Mexico. But some have even been spotted in Maine. But the thing is, it's Maine, Chile, Russia, the Philippines, and even the United States. And it's like a dog-like creature, but we'll talk about what it looks like and what people have turned it into. So I mean, the name it's when it's translated, it means goat sucker.
It literally means goat sucker. So, yeah.
I mean, it's when it kills mainly farm animals, even humans. It might even attack a human, but the organs are gone, and all the blood they drink the blood, they suck the blood out of it, and it throughout the Americans, farmers have been having problems with these mysterious. Well, let me go over something. They were dogs, they first started off as dogs, and then they changed into a humanoid dog standing on 2 feet. So now I'm gonna move on to the history. The first attack, it was actually on a farm in Puerto Rico. I don't know if I said that right. Puerto Rico. In March 1995, there was 8 sheep. They were all murdered. Well, I don't know if you'd say murdered, slaughtered. And some organs were missing, and even the blood was drained. That's one of the many attacks, And then a few months later, in August, there were some people who have seeing a creature in the town of Puerto Rico, Canovanas, where 150 farm animals and some pets, some dogs and cats, were killed. And then another sighting in 1975, similar to the ones that I've just talked about, where the blood was, sucked from the animals. It happened in another town in Maque. Just basically, there's people have seen this dog-like creature standing on 2 feet or even on all fours, killing their animals, killing their sheep and pets, and draining them of all blood. And they've all been in Puerto Rico. So, Yeah,
and one thing I like to add on to that is a lot of times if you hear cases of accounts of the Chupacabra, it'll be having to do with farms, especially pig farms, I've noticed. But it could be chicken farms, any kind of farms like that, but primarily pigs. That's what I've noticed, just learning about the Chupacabra in general.
I'm going to name off some countries. I probably won't be able to pronounce them, where some sightings.
I'll do it.
Okay.
The Dominican Republic, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, Brazil, the United States, and Mexico. So basically, I'd say the southern part of the United States, Central America, and Mexico. So,
another thing that happens when they kill is their eyes have gone. The animal's eyes have gone. I don't know what this is, but well, I want to actually mention something before I move on. So the Chupacabra, I'd consider it like a revenge. It loves revenge. So let's just say there's a pack of Chupacabras that comes on your farm and you kill one of them, a smaller teen, new to hunting. Then the other ones in the area will know that you killed it, and they'll pick up on your scent and follow it. There was this one creepypasta where this guy went to visit his grandpa's farm and had Chupacabra on it, and he killed a small one, and then he went back home, and then the big one followed him home all the way to, I think it was, the farm was in Mexico, and his house was like in the United States somewhere, and it
Probably
followed
Texas.
him. Yeah, Texas, I think that's it. But it followed him home, and it ended up not killing him. He survived. But they're very good hunters. Out of all the cryptids we've talked about, probably the best.
And one thing I'd kind of like to add on is Chupacabras are pretty much the southern equivalent to the Sasquatch. That's just a kind of cool little fact right there. Just to
they even have groups that actually look for chupacabras, and there's even a college group that studies chupacabras. There's this lady, I don't know the name of her, but she actually tracks them, and there's also other investigations like Benjamin Radford. He actually documented in his 2011 book called Tracking the Chupacabra that the chupacabra actually looks like Syl, which is an alien from a horror film called Species. Syl is like an alien creature. It's identical to the chupacabra, is what people who've seen the movie before say. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I will. So this is kind of off topic from what you were talking about, but one thing that I've noticed about doing some research from the Chupacabra is that it's one of the more well-known and believed, I guess you'd say, creatures. So if you look up Siren Head, for instance, what we did last time, it's one of the more lesser-known creatures, and it's obviously more false, I guess you could say. It's not as believed, but with the Chupacabra, it's a totally different story. There are pictures of it all over the internet, and there's so many claims of people seeing it, or thinking that they have seen it, and it's just that the Chupacabra is something that actually could exist, because it could just be a subspecies of the canines, like coyotes and stuff like that. So yeah.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, because it looks like a wild Mexican dog. If you haven't seen that, it's kind of a gray. It kind of looks skinny. You can kind of see hairless, and this is what the chupacabra looks like. And we'll talk about the description of it, but it's a canine. But the thing is, after the canine theory, people reported seeing it on two legs. So it switches over and over and over. It's just kind of hard to describe, but anyways, there's some theories that it doesn't suck blood, that Chupacabra had killed. This is a story where 300 victims of the Chupacabra found that they had not been bled dry of blood, but theories, they change with cryptids, like the skinwalkers and the Wendigos. The Wendigo doesn't have horns; it has horns. You never know what you're gonna expect. Like one day, the Wendigo might have horns, the next day it won't. So, So now we're just gonna talk about what it looks like. If you don't know what the Chupacabra looks like, it's a reptile-like creature, basically because it has scales that are lined out through its back, pointy scales, and it has leathery and even a greenish gray. It's kind of hard to imagine, but a greenish gray skin. It has sharp quills. They describe the scales as quills running down its back, and it can jump really high. In one creepypasta, it said it jumped 20 feet high. I don't know. And the Chupacabra, it's a strange breed of wild dog. It's hairless. And would you like to say something?
Yeah, so just from what I've heard, the Chupacabra, its back two legs set up higher than its front two legs, so it kind of has a weird wobbly like appearance. And another thing that I've heard to do with appearance is that most of the cases of people seeing chupacabras or encounters that scientists have had with chupacabras, it's turned out to be coyotes suffering from really severe cases of mange, which, if you don't know, it's a potentially fatal skin disease. And so, yeah, that's one kind of tidbit about what Chupacabra could be.
Yeah, that is true. Chupacabras, another thing is they have fangs and they have really long claws, but the one thing that sticks them out the most is their tail. It's really long, but at the end it's a triangle shape, you know. If you, I don't, but it's just a long
It's kind of like a devil tail.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, devil tail. And it even hops like a kangaroo, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, and it has really big footprints, too.
So, I'm going to talk about some related legends, and then you can do some stories, some encounters.
Yeah.
So along the Mississippi River in the Gulf of Mexico, even in New Orleans, there's some cryptids or creatures that are similar to the Chupacabra, I've never heard of these, but the Ozark howler, it's a large cougar-like animal. I'm not gonna be able to. Puchins,
Pukins, it looks like, of chili.
Pukins, yeah. It's like a dog-like being, and they're described as winged snakes, as you know. And the most legendary creature, it's in the Philippines, is the Sigbin, and it shares it's
a lot of the Chupacabra's descriptions.
It's similar. So,
before we go into some of the stories, I'd like to talk just a little bit about some of the methods it used to attacks. So, I'm gonna just kind of say a few things that I think are very interesting about how it attacks. So, what you'll notice if you're doing any research or listening to creepypastas about the Chupacabra is that it will oftentimes just take just the heart or all of the organs inside of the prey's body. And what you'll notice too is there won't be any blood trail surrounding the lifeless prey. And it's pretty much known that the Chupacabra will suck out all of the blood. And many people refer to it as kind of like a vampire creature, because it sucks the blood out, primarily on the neck, I found too. And like Walker said earlier, that it oftentimes will take the eyes, and it'll take the organs, the heart, and it won't leave a blood trail. So that's kind of one thing that I noticed about the way it attacks and everything.
Another thing that it does is it will actually watch its prey for, if it's at night, they have really good night vision eyes, supposedly is what they say. But it will actually watch its prey for hours. Oh, unless it's just one. But if there's more than one prey, they'll watch it for hours, find the weak one. I heard this in a creepypasta, but it will work its way up, And it's really good hunters, as we said, And now I'm gonna let him read some encounters. True,
Alright, so I'm gonna be reading a story off of Reddit, and this is under the subgroup Darkness Prevails, and I won't be saying the guy who wrote the story, but here we go. My Chupacabra Story. I'm a 16-year-old boy, and this happened to me when I was 8. I went to Mexico to visit my grandparents with my 2 brothers for the summer. It was good over at Mexico. We visited many places like the Aztec ruins and the tropical waters. My grandpa took me to a little house that she grew up in when she was a child. It was pretty old and felt like it could collapse at any moment. We stayed overnight in a cabin that was sweet. We set up a campfire and ate some s'mores. My grandparents and my brothers were telling me some Mexican urban legends. They mentioned La Lorna El Cucoy and La Lechuza. They mentioned the Chupacabra. My parents always told me about the Chupacabra since I was 6. My brothers were trying to scare me, and they did pretty well. It was bedtime. I went to sleep and dozed off. I was awoken in the middle of the night for no reason. I heard a strange noise outside, and I stupidly looked out the window. I couldn't remember much, but I saw a weird, skinny, hairless creature standing outside. I freaked out and I hid under the blankets. I heard scratching noises all night and couldn't sleep. When it was morning, I woke up and went outside. I went to a tree and saw claw marks scratched on it. My brother saw it as well. My brother smelled something horrible and we checked it out. We saw a dead deer with 2 punctures on its stomach. I didn't know what the heck was going on, but my brothers knew it was going on. "It's the Chupacabra," my brother spoke. We came across another carcass and it had the same 2 punctures on its stomach. My brothers were really creeped out and we decided to get the heck out of there. We didn't tell our grandparents and acted like it never happened. 3 years passed and I was now 11. I completely forgot about the Chupacabra incident and I was living a normal life. My mom told us that we would visit my grandparents again and with my older cousin. I was happy to see them after 3 years. We arrived and it was normal. We visited Cancun and Mexico City. We went to the same cabin I went to 3 years ago. I started getting back memories and the Chupacabra incident was back in my head. It was nighttime. I decided to go to bed. While asleep, I was awoken to the scratching sound. I knew it was the Chupacabra. I looked out the window, this time not seeing anything. I blinked many times. I gave up and I decided to go back to bed. I was awoken another time by a twig snapping outside. It was very loud, almost if I had headphones on. I looked and I saw a creature that was hairless and skinny. The creature quickly ran away until sunrise. The sun was rising and I noticed that my window had some claw marks. I had some delicious breakfast and went outside. I went outside and saw broken twigs and sticks. Oddly, there wasn't any footprints, but I returned to the tree I saw 3 years ago, and more claw marks were scratched on. I told my brothers and my cousin, who saw it too. We were all spooked out and saw a carcass of the deer. It had 2 punctures on its stomach as usual. My cousin was dumb and went into the forest alone with a blade. It took him 30 minutes for him to get shot. For him to return, my bad. His face looked like he witnessed somebody getting shot. He was pale as a ghost and looked scared. "What happened?" I asked. He lifted up his arm and revealed a huge claw mark. He also had 2 red dots on his back, also resembling the 2 punctures on the deer. To this day, my cousin still won't tell any of us what he saw or what happened when he went into the forest. I'm just glad that he returned and was still alive. I'm not planning to go back to Mexico to see that Chupacabra again. To this day, I sometimes still hear the scratching and clawing marks that I heard when I encountered the Chupacabra at night. I'm just glad that none of us became its next dinner. Alright, so that was a pretty interesting story, and sorry if I started a little bit in that story. The grammar was pretty bad, and I was trying to correct for most of it, so I just thought I'd let you know that.
So, from that story and what we've talked about, very similar things. Mexico, the puncture wounds. They didn't really talk about the dried blood, which I figured they would, but they didn't. But something I've never heard before was scratching on the tree. That's a pretty weird thing. Do you have anything to say about it?
I did think it was kind of weird how he was scratching into the tree, and to me, this story obviously seemed kind of made up.
Yeah,
you could tell.
To me, it did.
Like, the brother went into the forest with a knife and came back with the puncture wounds. How is he not dead? I don't know. It was kind of weird, but it is a story. So.
Yeah.
Alright, guys. Well, we looked around for some more real encounters of chupacabras, and we sadly couldn't find any more. But I guess this will conclude our 4th episode of Cryptids and Creepypastas about the Chupacabra. Think anything you want to add before we close?
I've got nothing except this was a very interesting creature. One of the best hunters we've talked about out of all of them.
Definitely.
And not one of the most common, but, if you stay tuned, there will be more. There will be many interesting ones that you probably didn't even know. We haven't really decided on our next creature or cryptid, but, it'll be soon or later, and we'll have one. Yeah.
Alright.